Well, good morning, everybody. It is a bitter cold morning today. People are just zooming to get to work, I guess. Let's put this pole up here. There we go. Bitter cold morning this morning. I wanted to make this video, and I've been thinking about making this video for a while, so I figure I'm going to do it live for now. Maybe I'll make a long form video later. But I wanted to talk about remote work, and it's been a much hotter topic lately because of, well, since the whole COVID thing, a lot of jobs have gone remote, working from home or traveling in your own vehicle, or what have you. And there is a very distinct difference between working from home and working remote. Now, this is going to go a little bit off topic to what I typically do because, like I said, I'm a pipeline inspector, I'm a welding inspector, so most of what I do is welding related, especially on this channel. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about traveling, and depending on the job you get, because there's a lot of jobs out there that require you to travel in your own vehicle. And when you sign up for these things, I've noticed, especially with younger kids coming out of school or coming out of high school, they see remote work and they're like, oh, I can work from home. Not always the case. You got to really read what you're getting yourself into. For example, if you take the route that I did, weld for a while, get your CWI certificate or license, whatever you want to call it, and then take a CWI job, whether it's with a company or on your own, the one thing to remember is that you're going to travel a lot. And that's one thing that I do. Now, luckily for me, the company that I work for, they try to keep me as close to home as they can reasonably, but there are going to be instances where you're going to have to travel away from home a long distance. Now, right now, I'm only going about an hour and a half away to do some welder qualifications. But coming up soon, probably middle of February, I'm going to be going about 6 hours away from my home in New York. There's a possibility that I'm going to cover for a job for like one day out in Indiana, which is 12 hours from me. And for me, flying isn't reasonable for the most part, depending on what I'm doing. When I'm traveling, I take a lot of stuff with me. I have my computer, I have my gas meter, I have my inspection equipment, I have my printer, clipboards, paperwork, all that sorts of stuff. And if I were to fly, it would cost a hell of a lot of money for the company to fly me out with all my equipment, so it's easier for me to drive. Not only that, a lot of the projects that I get involved in, I end up going off-road. So renting a vehicle to go off-road on the right-of-ways, not feasible. They don't work that well. And not only that, the truck that I have an antenna on my truck so I can get better cell signal and all that stuff. But I wanted to talk a little bit about, if you do remote work, how do you prepare yourself? And depending on what you're doing, depends on what you need to take. Now, I'm going to speak about the welding inspector position specifically. And my job requires me to take, inspection equipment, printer, computer, all the stuff that I just said. And you need to be able to carry that stuff reasonably. Because one thing that I've seen a lot of people do, especially in the position that I have, there's a bunch of other guys that work the same position that I do. Now, we all specialize in kind of different things. I specialize in pipeline. Some other guys specialize in tank work. Some other guys specialize in electrical, and so on. So they don't necessarily need what I need, and I don't necessarily need what they need. For example, a guy that's close to me, he's not a welding inspector. He's more of a construction inspector, I would say. He has a BMW 3 Series that he drives. Loves the freaking car. But he travels pretty light. You know, he brings his computer with him and all his paperwork stuff that he needs. But as far as inspection tools and stuff like that, his tools are limited to basically tape measure, square, you know, a couple little things. So he doesn't need a lot of space. And we all drive a lot, so we want to be comfortable when we drive. And he loves his BMW. And it's inexpensive to him. Now for me, and I've come to the realization, I bought this truck specifically. It's a 2024 Chevy Colorado Trail Boss. I bought this truck basically for this job. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bought another truck. I had a Ford Ranger before it. I love that truck, but driving in it any longer than I would say 2 hours is not, at least for me, because I am 6'4" and pushing 275 pounds. That Ford Ranger is not really comfortable for me. I don't fit very well. This truck I fit much better in. In hindsight, I probably should have spent a little bit more money and bought at least the ZR2. It has the adaptive cruise control, which I've never been a fan of any of that electronic nonsense that I say you don't need. But when you're driving 40,000 miles a year, some of that stuff is kind of nice to have. It has more comfortable seats. It has all that lane guidance stuff, radar cruise control. Like right now, I don't even have cruise control on. And it's kind of nice. Now, I did look at something like the Santa Cruz or the Ford Maverick. The one thing I don't care for about the Ford Maverick is that it is a very low vehicle. And with me being a pipeline inspector, I would say 80% of my driving is on road. But that 20% that is off-road is, the only way to put it is rough. This truck that I have now, I'm glad I have it, because if I didn't have it, I probably wouldn't be able to get a lot of the places that I need to get. Now, in all reality, I could probably get away with something like the Ford Maverick or the Hyundai Santa Cruz. The Santa Cruz is a lot more comfortable, drives more like a car. Gas mileage is a little bit better, although gas mileage I don't really particularly worry about too much. And it has all the space and the payload capacities that I need. But when I need to go off-road, it doesn't have that capability to do it. This truck does. And the reason why I say maybe I should have gotten the ZR2 is because it's very capable off-road, but it has the comfortability on-road. And one of the reasons why I picked this truck is because I looked at the gas mileage ratings, and this was better on gas. Not only that, this was $7,000 cheaper. But after doing some research, I found out that even though the ZR2 is rated lower, they actually get about the same miles per gallon on the highway. Surprise, surprise. Not only that, now that I have this truck for a while, it did pretty good off-road. The only thing that it doesn't do well on is traction with the tires, so I need to get new tires. And I've got 30,000 miles on this truck right now, and tires are getting a little low. So I'm going to have to get new tires anyways. And then I'm going to end up putting 33-inch tires on it, which is what the ZR2 comes with stock. So, and plus it has all the extra comfortability. I was never a guy to buy a truck that had all the luxurious stuff in it because I never needed it. I always had another work vehicle if I was driving, and if I wasn't driving, or if I didn't, like as a welding instructor, I drove 10 miles. Now I'm driving on average 200 miles a day. And I've gotten a new seat cushion for this truck. I've gotten seat covers. My cab is full of all my stuff. I got my computer sitting next to me so I can do stuff on it. And I basically carry my office with me. So if you're looking to do this job, keep in mind of what you need. I'm a guy that loves cars and trucks. I don't sway one or the other. If I could have a nice car, it would be awesome. But having a car sitting in a small cockpit, it's not conducive for me. I can't work out of it. This truck I can work out of. Everything about this truck is everything that I need. I just wish I had a little bit more in the comfortability aspect. I guess I didn't realize how much that was worth. Other than that, I'm going to be driving for a little bit. Got about an hour left before I get to my destination. So if anybody has any CWI, welding, inspection, traveling questions, let me know. Well, I got a couple projects coming up. I'll be traveling to New York for a week or two, probably middle of February. There is a possibility that I have to go down to the Freeport, Bahamas in maybe March or April. There's a job going down there for a company. It's 7 months long. I will not be spending 7 months down there. I might help them off and on a week here and there, but I can't leave. Like I told the project manager, if I were to go down to the Bahamas for 7 months, I would have to have divorce papers signed before I leave. So that's not happening. Your comfort is always worth the extra buck, from your boots to your bed and everything in between. You know what? I never realized how important that comment is until I started doing this job. Like I said, I've always had work vehicles and I didn't have a choice but to live in them. And I always said, well, I don't need anything more than a work truck. And that's basically what this is, a work truck on a lift kit. And I learned very quickly that, the more I drive, the more comfortability I actually do need. Like I said, this truck is fine. I'm not buying another truck until I absolutely need to. But I will keep this in mind next time, in hindsight, probably 6 years from now, when I go to buy another truck. I'm going to spend a little bit of extra money getting something a little bit more comfortable. Like I said, this one's good, but it would be nice to be a little bit more comfortable. About 3 hours in the seat, and I need to stop and just stretch a little bit. But again, too, finding a truck for me is kind of difficult. I could go full size if I wanted to. My problem with a full-size vehicle is that when I go down right-of-ways and going off-road, a full-size truck is hard to off-road, especially in places where there are not trails. That's the first thing people tell me is, if you just go down the you're just going down the right-of-way, it's not a big deal. Well, when you're going down a right-of-way that's been untouched for 15, 20 years trying to find a location that needs to be repaired, they are not prepared. There's no trails. You're kind of blazing your own trail down the right-of-way. Sometimes you're cutting through the woods, and if there's state forest and there's cut trails, and you go down them, those trails are not designed for vehicles, especially full-size pickups. So this mid-size truck gets everywhere that those side-by-sides do, and I don't have to ride in the contractor side-by-side back and forth 1,000 times to go get equipment. I can just take my truck to the job site. And a lot of times, too, I'm working on putting a camping setup for my truck, a small trailer together, because believe it or not, a lot of stuff that I have got myself into this past year was very remote. The closest hotel to me this summer was an hour and a half, and I was 2.5 hours away from home, so that didn't make any sense. So I camped some of it, especially when we were doing pressure tests and pig runs, because you're up weird hours, long hours. The last thing I want to do when it's time to shift change or shut the job down is drive an hour and a half to a hotel room. I'm quite comfortable camping. I've done it my entire life. I used to take time off from school to go do high adventure trips backpacking when I was in high school. So camping to me is quite comfortable. So I'm working on a camping setup so when I get in that situation again, which I know I will, I got another project coming for that, I can just set up camp at a state park. Yeah, let me know what questions you guys have. One of the tricks I like to use, like I said, I'm going to make a long form video on this, I think. But one of the tricks I like to use when I'm traveling, and this is why I don't worry about gas mileage too much, is I leave a little early so I'm not hurrying. So I save a little gas there. And also, I try to find a bigger vehicle like this semi to tail. That way it breaks up the wind for me and I can stay in the wake of its draft and get gas mileage. Like right now, this truck is rated 16 or 17 city and 22 or 23 on the highway. And everybody knows that that is, you know, the best possible scenario to get 23 on the highway. I've got probably 500 pounds of cargo and I'm doing 70 miles an hour, which is the speed limit on this interstate. And staying behind this truck, I'm getting 24 miles a gallon and climbing. And what happens is when you're in the draft of a vehicle, now you want to keep a safe distance. You don't want to be right up on its bumper. I got 2 car lengths behind it. I have more than enough room to stop. So even 2 car lengths back, this wake that this truck is making this draft. And you'll hear this from NASCAR drivers too. You get in the right spot on the draft and the draft will actually pull you along. So even if I let off the gas on a straightaway at, well, now we're doing like 65, but if I'm at 70, 75 miles an hour, if I let off the gas, that truck won't really pull away from me. His draft will keep me in line. So right now I am barely using any throttle at all, and I'm going up a hill. So I'm off the turbo. Now, if I need to speed up or if he makes a lane change and I need to get going, I'm going to try and find another truck to piggyback off of and go. Like I said, I got plenty of time. I'm early. And that's why I do it that way. So I can save money that way. I still get mileage. I get paid mileage. But I'm going to pocket as much cash as I can. So instead of getting, you know, if I'm doing 70 miles an hour with this load, I'll get an average of maybe 18 and a half, 19 miles to the gallon. Going from 19 to 24 or 25 miles a gallon, that's a big difference. And especially doing 200 miles a day, it's a big deal. So instead of filling up every other day, I'm filling up every 3 doing this. Now the other thing too is that I got ice in the back of my truck too. We had some snow over the weekend, a lot more than I thought. Usually I cover my bed up so I don't get snow in my truck, but that coating that we were supposed to get turned into 8 inches. Yeah, so I've got, you know, probably another 300-400 pounds of snow in the back of my truck. The other thing too, to save money if you're traveling, especially if you have the freedom. Now, I'm lucky because I work for a company, so my traveling expenses are pretty much paid for. So I don't really pay for my food for the most part. The only thing I pay for is my gas, and I don't even pay for my hotels and stuff. But a lot of welding inspectors are third party. They do pay for all of that, and they get a set per diem. To save money, what a lot of guys do is they will get into a real cheap hotel room, $50 a night, and, you know, go out to eat every day. But in hindsight, is that really saving you money? So I feel if you're in that situation, I've done some math on that because I used to do it myself, and it is less expensive for me to get a long-term stay place, whether it's an Airbnb, VRBO, or one of them long-term hotels that have a kitchenette, and make your own food. One, it's healthier, so you're not feeling like shit all the time. But also, two, it saves you time in the morning and in the evening. Now, if you're, you know, I go out every once in a while. Like when I was traveling this past summer, I made food 4 nights a week. And then 2 nights a week I would go out because I get a little stir crazy. But, find the long-term stays, even if they're like $120 a night, it's still going to be less expensive for you to stay there and make your food, buy groceries, than it is to go out every night. In all seriousness, I did the math, and for a month, if I were to stay in a spot that was $58 a night, and then go out every night for, say, we'll say for breakfast and dinner, I'd spend $80. So, 20 in the morning, 60 at night. And that's how much things are now, especially where I'm going. I'm going to New Jersey, and food's just more expensive. But that's $80 a night plus 60, it's $140. For $140 a night, I can stay in a really decent place with a kitchen, make my own food, and still have money left over. And usually the per diem around this area is $330-ish a night. So you're still saving money, but you can save a lot more and be healthier and happier. Because staying in them shitty hotels, I'm telling you, if you're doing it for a week, okay, it's not a big deal. But if you're doing it for months at a time, and I know guys, like I said, the project I was on in the summer, I was there for 4 months. You don't want to be in a flea bag hotel for 4 months. A week, okay, fine. But not for 4 months. It gets old fast. I stayed in when I was up in the summertime. I wanted to camp, but I wasn't able to because I didn't have everything ready yet. So I stayed in a VRBO, and it ended up being less expensive to the company than if I was to stay in a hotel like everybody else does. Their monthly statements were $5-6 grand. Mine was like $2,300 monthly. That was for everything. That included like when I had to buy water, because I was going through a case of water every week because it was so freaking hot. Now, one thing that stinks is that when you're traveling, like I'm doing for this project right now, to and from the job site, I'm 2 hours away from home, and to me, anything 2 hours or closer, I'm driving it. I have young kids, so I want to be home, and as long as everything goes well for the job site and we're not working overtime, I'll go home. If we are working overtime, I'll catch a hotel while I'm there. I've done that a few times. We ended up working till like 6 o'clock at night. The last thing I want to do is travel home during rush hour, end up being in the truck for 2.5 to 3 hours. Then by the time I get home, everybody's in bed anyways. So all I'm doing is going to sleep and then waking back up at 4 o'clock. There's no point in me going home. I might as well just stay in a hotel and get a decent rest. And I don't book the really expensive hotels, but I don't book bottom of the barrel either. I'll book something like, now keep in mind, I have government ID and other perks, so I try to stay in, and that's actually the other thing. If you're traveling and you're staying in hotels, get on the rewards program and rack up those points as much as you can. So when I go places, I only stay in Marriott hotels, the ones that are owned by Marriott. That includes a Fairfield Inn, Residence Inn, and all that stuff. The reason why is because that's the point system that I chose. I chose that point system because when I did, this might be overanalyzing a little bit, but when I did the math, the Marriott point system has more value than any of the other hotels that I could research. So I chose that one. And not only that, with my government ID and all that, I can get into a pretty nice hotel room for $100. So my company doesn't get upset that I'm spending a ridiculous amount of money. I don't feel bad about it, and I'm also not staying in a hotel where I have to worry about cockroaches and bed bugs. And yes, I'm one of them weirdos that brings a black light with me. course, I woke up early this morning to take off, and I looked at my gauge and it said 5 degrees. I'm like, oh man, it's gonna suck. But welder qualifications today. We're in their shop. Stay nice and warm. I got some paperwork to do anyways. And then I should be, the rest of this week, I should be working from home. So after the job's over as a CWI, then starts the data collection. Now I collect all the paperwork and everything and start organizing it on a computer file while the job's going on. But to be honest, I don't always have the time to put everything together. So I end up just downloading stuff and dumping it into one file, which is labeled the job on, and then I go through later and organize it all and rename everything and make a job book and all that stuff, which is required. So then I'll get, the rest of this week I should be home, and I'll spend my 8 hours a day, maybe not quite that much, but about 8 hours a day I'll spend putting that stuff together so I can get it to the project manager. And I make damn sure that stuff's organized, because especially when you're working on projects that are DOT regulated, they have to be right. If there's anything missing and you get into an audit and PHMSA comes in and says, see, there goes my tail. PHMSA comes in and wants to see certain things. Instead of rifling through files in hopes that you got it, I label everything. Everything's labeled. So the MTRs that I have, the MTR number's right on the title, and then I put a hyphen and then what it is. So if it's, I'll make up a number, and 276576, that's the heat number. I'll put that in the title, dash, 20-inch 3R90 title. So if somebody says, hey, where's the heat number for these welds, or where's the MTR for this part, I can just go through my file, look at the title, and go, there it is. And the project managers love it too, because they don't have to call me all the time and say, hey, where's this thing that I need? That you can usually just find it, or if PHMSA asks me, I can just grab it. And I can also tell between that and the drawing, okay, what do I have and what don't I have? Because unfortunately, contractors don't always give you everything you need. So I can go through that stuff, and while I'm on the job site, I can question them, be like, hey, where's this MTR? You guys said you had it. Instead of finding out at the end of the job that I don't have something, and then, we can't find it. Now what do we do? Make damn sure you have all your paperwork together before the job's over. And then organize it a little bit later if you have to. See if I can move this a little bit more. Now it is what it is. Alright. Sorry. But I was just talking to a former student / friend of mine who is traveling from, and she's on the podcast too, so if you want to check the Arc of the Covenant podcast, we finally got season 2 episode 1 up and running. We're gonna record episode 2 soonish, and so she travels as a welder, and she hops from job to job wherever they send her. So she was down in Florida, I think Jacksonville for a while. Yeah, she was in Jacksonville for a while, and she had to pick up and go to Mississippi. Now, lucky for her, she ended up starting to date and get into a serious relationship with a guy that is on the same job that she is. Lucky for her. So they carpool, save a lot of money in gas. They also split Airbnbs or long-term stays, save money on the hotel room. One thing you don't want to do as a CWI is split the hotel room with another contractor. That can be considered, if that anything ever goes to arbitration for any reason, that can be considered conflict of interest, and it doesn't look good. far away. I didn't realize I was that close, actually. Well, that's about all I got to say. Anybody have any questions that's listening? Didn't have a big crowd today, but that's all right. All right, now we're getting another section of the interstate. We're coming up near Philadelphia now. I'm going to see if I can get up against, I know you guys can't see it, but there is a truck up here. I'm going to see if he's going to stay on this road, and if he is, I want to get up behind him and save some gas. My gas mileage is going down just a wee bit. The other thing, too, what's going on, Jacob? The other thing, too, oh, shoot, I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, the other thing, too, about doing this when I'm playing this hopscotch with trucks, one thing I do have, and this is a medical thing, I have a condition where I'm not diagnosed with narcolepsy, but I have what the doctor says is narcoleptic tendencies. I don't really know what that means, but what I do know is that I fall asleep very easily. If nothing's going on or if too much is going on, I will fall asleep. So if there's a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress going on, in the moment, I'm wide awake making decisions, doing things, but then as soon as it's over, like if I go to sit down in my truck after a very stressful or tense conversation with a contractor, or if something happens and we figure it out and I go to sit, I will pass the fuck out. Or if I'm driving for a long distance, I got to be careful because I can get tired and fall asleep before I realize. So I do if I have to, and I plan for it. So if I'm doing, like I had to go to Ohio in June, it was a 6-hour drive, and I'm usually pretty good in the morning. If I have to drive home in the evening after work, which when I was done the job and coming back after work, I'll fall asleep. So I will pull over into a rest stop, and I will take like a 20 or 40 minute nap, just enough for me to stay out of that twilight state and keep moving. But also, too, doing stuff like this where I'm following a truck and trying to save as much gas as I can and playing hopscotch, it keeps me awake. It gives my brain something to do other than just sit here and push a gas pedal. So that's one thing that people don't think of is, you know, and a lot of people have that problem after driving for a long period of time, that they'll just fall asleep. And it's dangerous. So if you give your mind something to do, like watching outside, I'm watching this truck, I'm trying to stay at constant pace with them, adjusting my foot, adjusting my steering, all that stuff. It does keep me awake and keep me moving. That's one of the reasons why I do it. Whereas if I'm just blasting down the freeway at 75, 80 miles an hour, that's not going to keep me awake. Yep, you're a moderator. You asked to be one, so I made you one. Yeah, I'm diagnosed ADHD and autism. But in all honesty, to have this job as a welder and inspector, I almost feel like you have to be. See, I'm following this truck now. I'm getting about 25 miles a gallon. I'm headed to do some welder qualifications in somewhere in the middle of Jersey. I'm from Pennsylvania, so this drive to Jersey's, this specific area is going to be about an hour and a half from me. Oh yeah, you're a little far away from me. How cold is it down there? I woke up this morning, it was 5 degrees. Now it's finally getting warm, it's 12. Just got a notification saying my kid's school has a 2-hour delay. I have to stop and call my wife here soon. Oh no, where's he going? Stay with me. Don't leave me. I'm helping both of us with gas mileage. That's the other thing too, when you're following a truck like this, getting into his draft. Now I'm right on the edge of the draft, so you can kind of feel the truck, well, I can feel the truck moving around just a little bit, right on the edge of it, which is kind of where I want to be. I don't want to be sucked into the back, but I also don't want to be breaking my own wake. That, what I'm doing, actually helps him with his gas mileage as well, a little bit. I'm going to get behind that. Oh, no, I'm not. I think, is he going right? No. Never mind. Now, the one thing that truckers don't like, and I only know this because I have a couple friends that drove truck, is they don't like having a vehicle behind them where they can't see it. So if I can't see his mirrors, he can't see me. So I make sure, one, I'm at a safe following distance where if he brakes, I can brake. But also, two, I can see the driver's mirror. And if I can see the driver's mirror, then he can see the whole side of my truck. So he knows I'm back here. And this also helps him with his gas mileage, just a teensy bit. But I've learned that from other truckers that I know. If you're too close, they don't like it. And I don't blame them, because I don't like it when people are too close to me. But at the same time, they don't mind somebody being behind them because of that reason, saving them a little bit of gas. But I've also met other truckers that don't want anybody anywhere near them ever. But I've also met people that drive that are the same way. So. I am not on the turnpike for very long. I gotta get off. I gotta take my medication before I forget, because I will forget. All right, well, that about does it for me. I'm going to get off the turnpike now. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Like I said, I'm going to probably end up doing a long-form video of this when I have some time. And then stay tuned for more stuff like this. I know it's a little bit of a departure from what I normally do, but hey, this is the nature of the job. All right, I'll see you later.